Hello, everybody. Today we're going to read chapter 22 of the Titanic, and there will also be a ReadWorks article posted on Google Classroom as well. You need to make sure that you are actually doing the assignment. I saw that 6 students had indeed completed the last ReadWorks article. I would really like for every single one of you to do that today, okay? Some of these things they're taking the place of school. They're really not optional anymore. They're things that you do need to do, okay? So here we go, chapter 22. RMS Titanic, Friday, April 12th, 1912, 8:55 a.m. And as a reminder, yesterday when we ended, Patty was hanging off the side of the ship, and we're wondering how is he going to be saved? A large leather-bound ledger swung out of nowhere and caught Seamus full in the face. So that's got to be Alfie, because Alfie was the one that had that big book that had the list of the ship's log. The bodyguard staggered backward, blood pouring from a large nose that had been shattered yet again. "Help!" Alfie bellowed, waving the cargo manifest to keep Gilhooly at bay. The gangster's eyes narrowed with rage at the young steward. "You've made a grave mistake, laddie." But at that moment, running feet rattled the deck. Stewards and seamen converged on the spot from all directions. "Call the master-at-arms!" Alfie shouted. He reached through the rail and grasped Paddy by the wrist. Try as he might, he lacked the strength to heave the smaller boy back aboard. Crew members swarmed the spot, taking hold of Gilhooly and Seamus. 2 sailors pulled Paddy up and over the side, setting his feet on the deck. "Are you all right, son?" asked the older of the 2. In answer, Paddy turned tail and sprinted along the boat deck, leaving his rescuers staring after him, open-mouthed. They had saved his life, and he was grateful, by God, but he was still a stowaway aboard this ship, and Paddy Burns had a talent for shifting his attention from one problem to the next with lightning speed. He hurdled the gate into first class and hoisted himself onto the broad metal grid. As he scrambled across, he looked down on the stained glass dome that covered the aft grand staircase. Jumping to the deck, he dodged his way through cranes and equipment and raced forward, now on the starboard side. He heard shouts behind him and pounding footfalls. Sure, he thought bitterly, 2 gangsters just tried to throw a 14-year-old boy overboard, but the White Star Line's chief concern is capturing me. There was no way he could hope to elude sailors on their own ship. He had to hide now. He tried several doors along the superstructure. All were locked. His eyes fell on the line of covered lifeboats it would have to do. He climbed up to the nearest one and slipped under the tarpaulin. Furtively, he peered out to check for pursuit. So his life was saved, right? First by Alfie and then with help from other sailors. But then he had to run away because he's still a stowaway and he doesn't want to get in trouble. So he decides to hide underneath one of the lifeboats and he's kind of poking out to sea. The sailors had not yet appeared, but he was not entirely alone. There at the rail, staring straight at him, was the fancy girl with the diamond eardrops. The one who had looked at him with such contempt. We know who that is, right? Juliana. There could be no question that she'd seen him, and also no question that she would turn him in. He was doomed. Now, I was inferring the same thing as Patty was, that we know she does not like him, and that she probably will be turning him in if she can. He caught sight of the pursuers then, and, coming from the opposite direction, a single imposing figure in an officer's uniform. Lightoller. Patty ducked out of sight and secured the cover around the lifeboat. "Report!" the second officer barked. "We've got 2 in custody," a sailor called back. "A right nasty pair of cutthroats. They tried to throw the boy overboard." "Who's the boy?" Lightoller asked. "A stowaway, we think. He was that anxious to get away." Lightoller turned to Juliana. "I'm sorry to trouble you, miss. Did you see this boy? I believe he's wearing a steward's uniform." Patty's heart sank. Well, here it was, the end of the road. He had been saved, but only to be delivered into the hands of the White Star Line. He waited for the girl to expose his hiding place. "Yes, I did, Mr. Lightoller," he heard Juliana announce. He was heading forward toward the wheelhouse. Patty sat up in shock. Had the girl somehow overlooked him? No, impossible. She had watched him climb into this very lifeboat. Their eyes had met. He could still feel the sting of her scorn and disapproval. Are you absolutely certain? Lightoller persisted. I came from that way myself, and I didn't notice anyone. Oh, yes, was Juliana's reply. He was running very fast. Perhaps he crossed over to port, and you missed him. Patty could not believe his ears. This rich girl, who had more wealth dangling from one ear than he could ever hope to touch in a lifetime, was protecting him. Why would she help him? No, this went far beyond help. She was lying to an officer, risking serious trouble. Aiding a stowaway was a crime. So this is really unexpected, that Juliana would be helping him. So I wonder why she's doing it. Perhaps he did, came Lighttoller's voice again, although he did not sound convinced. This way, men. Patty heard more running feet and then quiet. A moment later, a soft voice called, Are you all right? He peered up at her. The judgment was gone from her eyes, but her expression did not seem friendly. She looked stunned, as if taking Patty's side had been even more bewildering to her than it had been to him. Thank you for not turning me in, miss. Those men almost killed you, she said, in horrified amazement. Patty tried to smile. Well, we Belfasters are a friendly lot. He began to swing his leg over the side. I'll be on my way. You'll stay right where you are, she countered in a sharp whisper. I'll tell you when it's safe to come down. Patty sat back on the curved bottom of the boat, hugging his knees to his chest. Quite an eventful morning, even by the standards of a Belfast street lad. Nearly murdered, and then nearly arrested by his rescuers. And now this, a helping hand from the last person he'd ever imagined would offer one. He patted his jacket, feeling Daniel's drawing against his heart. He would have given everything he had, which was nothing, mind you, to be back with his old friend in their abandoned print shop. Yet a fellow can find support and kindness in this pitiless world. It's out there, even aboard a ship of millionaires. You just had to look hard enough. Still, Patty knew his position was precarious. There was something about that Mr. Lightoller, the hardness of his expression, the unyielding steel of his eyes. The second officer would never rest until the stowaway had been captured and brought to justice. He shifted, trying to fall into a comfortable position. Considering the size of the ship, the lifeboats were a lot smaller than he'd expected. Yet, oddly, there didn't seem to be very many of them. There's a little foreshadowing, right? Because we know that eventually the ship will sink and there won't be enough lifeboats to go around. I wonder why Juliana did help them. I'm thinking maybe it had something to do with Sophie telling her that she couldn't be friends with someone that was heartless. Or maybe when she saw how dangerous the men were that were after Patty, she took pity on him and wanted to help him, make sure that he survived. I'm not sure. Maybe you can think about, why do you think she helped him? I'm not going to be posting a question for the read aloud on Google Classroom because your reading comprehension today will just be your ReadWorks article. But after you watch the video, it's an assignment. I want you to make sure that you hit the turn in button on the side so that I can see that you have completed the assignment. Okay. And yeah, everybody have a great rest of your day. Make sure that in addition to the ReadWorks article, that you do at least another half an hour of reading on your own today. Okay. And don't forget to be doing Prodigy or IXL every day too. Okay. See you soon.